Hello, everyone. If you had any doubts as to where this administration stands on Russia, all you have to do is look at two things. One is the latest tariffs announcement, in which Russia is not included, and how they play the sanction game. And this is a prime example. So on one hand, we have sanctions against some Russian companies, some networks that support Russia. But on the other hand, we are removing sanctions on Putin's allies in the United States. Let that sink in for a sec. Let's break this down. We finally got out some sanctions on a network that was supplying Houthis with stolen Ukrainian grain and Russian weapons. Remember what I told you about the grain? So, as you might imagine, in the times of war, grain is difficult at every stage of the way. It's difficult to plant, it's difficult to grow, it's difficult to harvest, load up, deliver to the port, load up on the ship, and get out of the harbor. Because bombing. So, the fact that somebody would take and steal that, especially considering that a lot of this grain is going to third world nations as humanitarian aid, so Ukraine is not getting paid for it. That is pretty shitty. What's this about removing sanctions from Putin's ally? Well, apparently we had somebody in the United States who was leaking information to Russia. And the person in question is a US citizen. So why are we not sanctioning them? Isn't that treason? I don't get it. I don't understand. The network that was stealing grain and weapons, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars worth of commodities that were either stolen or acquired through Russia. So again, that's something, but notice that is not a sanction on Russia directly. The people immediately affected are going to be the Houthis. So there is, I think, some logic in that, saying, okay, we can say we imposed sanctions on this organization that is doing something very illegal according to the international law. But it's not going to impact our relationship with Russia directly. So it's basically a very a la carte, very pick and choose attitude toward sanctions. Oh, really? Trump officials say that ceasefire unlikely in coming months. Really? No. But your illustrious leader said that he was going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. What happened? What happened to that? What's the matter, Pumpkin? Can't get the, mean old war to just end magically because you waved your little hands? Ah. Meanwhile, in Europe, people are looking at some practical aspects of war. It is true that Ukraine managed to patch up some of the troop shortages by expanding the pool of recruits. The eligibility requirements have been adjusted, and also we have been getting some aid with training, particularly training soldiers with the use of the more complicated equipment, such as ATACMS, HIMARS, F-16s, uh, other stuff that we didn't just naturally have in Ukraine. So that's all a good thing. Now, top U.S. general in Europe, Christopher Cavoli, said that U.S. cutoff of aid and intelligence would be harmful to Ukraine. Again, Europe is already supplying more than half. But there are some things that Europe just don't have the production capacity for right this second. And that is the larger anti-aircraft and missile defense systems. And you'll know, we talked about this a million times, that one of the things that Ukraine is suffering from is these massive aerial attacks, including different types of projectiles like the drones, the missiles, the glide bombs, etc. So this is not even to inflict any damage on Russia. This is to protect Ukrainian civilians who are getting pounded every single day. But again, there is a realization, make no mistake, in Ukraine and in Europe that US may pull out, and yes, it's going to be shitty. I believe in Ukrainians, they will come up with something. It's just going to make things more difficult. So what are we getting right now? We have ammunition, put, 2 million rounds moving from Europe. That's moving nice and quick. The Czech-led initiative to supply Ukraine with artillery ammunition just got further financing. That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you, folks. And here's why. We had yet another attack on Kharkiv that hit, once again, civilian housing, started a fire, killed people. That's why we need those anti-aircraft and aerial defense systems. Here it is. This happens every day. You can literally go in and look at the news. If you go Google Russia attack Ukraine city, and it will roll you out a long list of results every single day. Ukrainian troops are still holding on to the tiny, tiny scrap of land in Russia's Kursk region. And of course, we have that foray into the Belgorod region. In addition, Zelensky visited the northeastern Sumy region. That's one of the ones that is getting attacked a lot. And once again, it emphasizes the need for aerial defenses. So what he's trying to do right now is basically take survey of what we have and where we have the highest concentration of attacks. And Sumy region has been high attack area for a long time. Lots of destruction there. So he went and visited it in person. By the way, speaking of in-person visits, we have yet to see anyone, says Keith Kellogg, who seems to have disappeared, to come and visit Ukraine from the United States. Just saying. So he went to visit to see what needs to be done there. And this is on the personal level to just show you what kind of country Russia is. They basically recently declared the Elton John AIDS Foundation, which fights for HIV treatment and prevention. They declared it an undesirable organization. So basically kicked them out. It's Russian equivalent of fighting wokeness. They too eliminate groups that support marginalized individuals. That's what they're like. Sounds familiar? You think on that, America. More to come.